So for real though, maybe the best Metroidvania I've ever played. Maybe. Like me. Prince of Persia, everybody. MTK here with another review. Now for me, this is special because I played Prince of Persia back on PS2 and it was one of my favorite games growing up. So I was really hoping this game would slap, and I think it did. Let's jump in. Now this game, in my opinion, is beautiful. It has that kind of cartoonish art design which I can't always get into, but for this game in particular, it kind of worked. I feel like the terrain design, the character design, the different areas were all kind of distinct and had its own little feel and own style to it, and I really liked it. Not to mention, the performance was really smooth. I didn't notice any glitches or world flaws or anything like that. And in today's gaming landscape, it's pretty rare for a game to launch and not really have any glitches or flaws like that. Now I know this game is a side scroller and maybe those are easier to do. I don't really know, but I still admire the fact that I'm able to sit down, play a game, and just not have an issue with it. Combat, combat, combat. This is probably the game's main seller, in my opinion. The combat in this game is so smooth and unique, and there's so many different ways that you can string things together. I would categorize it as a fighting game meets a Metroidvania. If you've ever played any games like Street Fighter or King of Fighters or Tekken or anything like that, the same mechanics that allow you to string combos together in those games really is pretty much the same in this game. You can get an enemy airborne and then just go to town on them. You can mix different abilities in and super attacks and special abilities, and there's just all kinds of possibilities. And you can go through the game if you want to and just use basic attacks and work your way through each enemy, but it gives you the option that if you want to practice, because there is a training mode, which is also really awesome, but if you want to practice and put the time in, you can dish out some hellacious combos that are clip-worthy to throw up on YouTube. The enemies and the difficulty is also pretty wide-ranging. This game has difficulty settings from fairly easy all the way to sweat and strain kind of difficulty, which I'm a fan of. I like difficult games, and this game can definitely be that if you want it to be. It also has some really great boss fights, and those can be challenging or just fun, and it's really up to you. You can choose to grind and strain or just kick back and turn your brain off and have a little fun. Now we come to what I feel is yet another strong point for this game. The world design is full of a lot of great features. The exploration is rewarding and there's a ton of it that you can do. If you don't want to just stick to the main story, there's a bunch of different side paths that you can go on, and some of them are pretty challenging. There's also plenty of shortcuts that you can unlock as you progress throughout the world, and it almost is, dare I say, Souls-like. If you've played any of the Souls games, they are renowned for their shortcuts and how they make the next run just a little bit easier, and this game had a lot of that. I wouldn't call it a Souls-like, obviously, but in that regard, it definitely has some similarities. Another thing that stood out to me was the platforming. I think it has just the right amount of challenge that makes it fun and interesting without being so hard that you can't get anywhere. There's also a lot of optional areas that you can go do if you want to and challenge yourself, or you can move on and go to the next main quest. There is also several traversal abilities that you unlock as you go throughout the game, and with each one you unlock different areas that you can now get to. Whereas before, you would come up on a ledge that you couldn't get to, or a gap you can't cross, and you just have to turn and go another way until you unlock that specific ability. which really adds to the exploration and allows you the option to circle back to those areas if you choose. Which brings me to my next point, which is the memory shard system. It's a really cool system that they implemented where you can use a memory shard to actually take a screenshot of the place that you're at, and it will be posted on your map so that you can not only remember where that place is, but also have a visual to go with it to remind you to circle back to that spot to get whatever loot or awesome thing that might be left behind. So the story isn't bad. I would say it's actually a pretty good story. I just think it's outshined really by the rest of the features that the game has to offer. It's not that it's not a good story, it's just that in comparison to the game's other components, it doesn't quite meet the same level that they do. But I wouldn't really say that's a knock on the story. I think it's more of a compliment to how good all those other things are. And, you know, when you do a bunch of things really well, it's just normal for something to not be quite as good as the other things. And so I think that's the case with the story. But hey, that's just my opinion. So with all that being said, let's jump over to my personalized ranking system and see where this game falls. I'm going to have to give this one a must play. It's a great game. I think you should really pick it up. Beautiful look, great world design, awesome combat. There really is very few negative things that you can say about this. So if you've been on the fence and you're wondering if this is worth your time, I think it definitely is. Peace.
Do it now. Smash like.